I am Bhavyae Mittal. I am a general engineer male and have done bachelor's in electrical and electronics engineering from UIT Punjab University Chandigarh. And to all the students, I would like to give advice that to prepare for CAT, you need to. There is a lot of free materials that is also available. Apart from the coaching classes of EduShastra, you can also prepare from a lot of free material also that is available on YouTube. So there are a lot of free channels that are available. And apart from that, I used to do the past year papers, and that has actually improved me a lot. As far as interviews are concerned, there is a set pattern of questions that are being asked to all the candidates. Like there, in any interview, you have to actually prepare on a certain amount of topics. Like I prepared topics from economy. In economy, you can prepare about like GDP, GNP. These are the set questions that are asked in most of the interviews. And apart from that, you must prepare all most of your graduation subjects. I like, since I am an electrical engineer, I prepared electrical machines. That was the most important topic. Power systems. I prepared 2-3 topics from my engineering background. That is also like if you are any graduate, questions would be asked from your graduation. And then I also prepared certain HR questions, like tell me something about yourself, why MBA. These are the questions that will be asked to you in any of the interviews. So you must prepare all these HR questions. And also, I would like to say that a student must also, like for whichever college he or she is giving the interview, she must have certain knowledge about that college. That will become very handy, because in certain interviews, like the most favorable question of the panelist is why a particular college you want to join. Like in I am Vishakhapatnam, I was asked this question, why I am Vizag. So you should have you must go through the website of the college. You should know the placements, everything you should know about that college, because it will show your inclination towards that college, and you should do that for every interview you are sitting in. I'll start with VJSOM IIT Kharagpur. Like it was around 25 to 30 minutes interview. It was quite an elaborative interview. There were two panel members. One was male and one was female. Initially they told me to tell me something about yourself, and I gave them a prepared answer. And then they said that since you are an engineer, they started asking me certain maths question. And in any IT interview, it is very important to prepare certain maths question, be it calculus, because this is something they expect you to know, because we have done it in 12th standard, and also in engineering we used to come across these topics. And they started me asking certain questions about maths. And also I would like to tell, like, a student must keep a certain notebook handy with himself, because in IIT Kharagpur also, they told me to make a graph of y is equal to 1 by x. And then they gave me a quadratic equation to solve. And then like it had like they asked me when a quadratic equation will have complex roots. So I told them, like, if I gave them the answer, like if d is less than 0. So they started asking, like, if I can relate the complex roots to my electrical engineering. So I was able to relate that, and I gave that answer. So they were quite impressed with that. And then the second panelist uh, she started asking me about all the current affairs that are going on. She asked me about Ukraine Russia war that is going on. What is my opinion on that? How India is able, how India is getting affected by that. She told me to give 3 reasons in which India is actually getting benefit from the war. So I gave them the 3 reasons why India is getting benefit. Then she started asking me questions about, like, if since I am from Chandigarh, uh, and Chandigarh is the capital of Punjab, she started asking me what is the unique thing about Chandigarh. And I told them that since it is the capital of two states, both Punjab and Haryana, that is the unique thing. And they started asking me about the farm laws that are there, because, and I have prepared that topic in advance, because I knew in Punjab a lot of protests were there regarding the farm laws. So I prepared a lot of current affairs topics. So these were the main questions that were asked to me in the interview in VJSOM. And if I talk about my IIM Trichy interview, that is the CAP interview, it is usually a very short interview of around 10 minutes. They told me to tell me something about yourself, and I gave the answer. And it is very important for a student to know each and everything that they are telling in their introduction, because in my interview also started asking me about Chandigarh only, because I have mentioned that Chandigarh is ranked second in Human Development Index. So they asked me a lot of questions about Human Development Index. The first panelist asked me a lot of questions, all the rankings they asked, like which country is ranked highest and what is the rank of Chandigarh and all that questions. And then the second panelist started. He said, since you are an engineer, you must have done a project in your graduation. So he started me asking about my project and what were my learnings from that project that I've done in my graduation. And so it was a very short interview, and I think they seemed impressed with that. But and coming to my third interview, that is the MDI Gurgaon interview, it was the best interview that I have given. I was able to give all the answers, and there were like two panelists in MDI Gurgaon. They started with the usual answer, usual question. Tell me something about yourself, and then they picked uh, a certain point where I have mentioned I have worked at Infosys Limited as a system engineer for 13 months. They started asking me counter questions over that, like what was my role in at Infosys, uh, and like is I'm still doing my job, and what is my current job profile, what I am doing there. So a candidate must prepare all his work-ex questions, he should be thorough with his work-ex. And then they started asking me a lot many questions about Chandigarh, like what are the famous places in Chandigarh. I mentioned few of the places like Sukna Lake, Rose Garden, and then they started asking me who is the architect of Chandigarh. So whichever place you are from, you must know the history about that place, like when the city was formed, like what is the unique thing about that particular city. Everything you must know about your own city. And then the second panelist started. He said, since you are an electrical engineer, he asked me a lot many questions about from electrical engineering, a lot many questions. I was fortunate that I have prepared all the topics. He didn't ask me a particular topic, but just started asking all the random questions about electrical engineering. But I was fortunate that I was able to answer all of the questions. He asked me about the Kirchhoff's laws, like KVL, KCL, and then he asked me about electrical machines, like various kind of electrical machines are there, and I have prepared all of them, so I was able to answer most of the questions. And then he started asking the last question that he asked me was related to business, uh, because they are trying to check your business inclination, because MBA is a business course, business oriented course. So they asked me about name any three FMCG companies, the three Indian FMCG companies, and and I was able to answer that questions. And on that particular note, my interview ended. So I felt like it was my best interview after VG Som and CAP calls.